Hi everyone, hope you're fine. I'm speaking on a very important topic. Are we really to suffer for Christ? Are we really to suffer for Christ? That's a very deep topic. My last topic was on why do we suffer if Jesus lives in our heart? I'll drop the link below this video, so go check it out. And also did a topic on who killed Jesus. Who killed Jesus? I will also drop the link below this video, and make sure you watch this video to the end to be well enlightened on these topics. Thank you. Numerous verses highlight the reality of suffering as part of one's faith life. Suffering looks different for everyone. The common trend for all believers is that Christians should always point to Christ in the midst of pain and struggle. These thoughts are from Candice Lucy. The word suffer and its derivatives are mentioned from the apostles dozens of times. Followers of the way would have expected to suffer, but was it a facet of the Christian walk, especially something Christ expected all believers to experience then and now? Or was their suffering simply an unfortunate aspect of life within a given historical context? Suffering and scriptures. Let's look at some scriptures that are quite likened to suffering. Matthew 7:7, Matthew 16:24, Philippians 3:8, Acts 7:59. Becoming a Christian does not mark the end of suffering in this earthly life. Suffering is something every person has in common. Does this mean one will suffer even though he or she is a Christian? This will suggest that suffering is not an aspect of faith, but just an unfortunate fact of life. Let's look at the extremes of suffering. Christianity Today reported that 1,000 more Christians were killed for their faith last year than the year before. 1,000 more Christians were detained. 600 more churches were attacked or closed. Certain countries are notably hostile towards Christ followers. One can expect the suffering to be severe in the wrong people find out. The believer's situation in such countries echoes that of the early Christians who gather in the upper rooms of certain homes or in the catacombs to avoid persecution. But they did share the gospel at the risks of their own lives. It can be subtle, emotional, and still very painful. Examples include discrimination in the job market, isolation, and for verbal abuse among co-workers or classmates, rejection by family, and more. Families and marriages split. Friendships are undone. Careers end. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. Matthew 10:34. Jesus was preparing the disciples to expect division and rejection. They would enter cities where the people might laugh and jeer them out of town, which was Jesus' own experience, a direct result of publicly proclaiming that Christ was the fulfillment of Jewish prophecy, King and Savior to all those who would submit their lives to Him. Our suffering, God's glory. How is it Christian suffering meant to be different from that of the world? The word for Christ are key. Some suffering is not a personal attack against one's belief. A car accident and resulting injury with MS are personal and unfortunate life situations. It is Satan's plan to challenge our faith by all means when they are engaging the world for Christ or just going about their business. Satan prey on God's children in the hope that they will walk away from their Father in heaven. Christ endured the same on the mountain after He was baptized. He was permitted to endure Satan's schemes, and so we are. There is also suffering which comes about as a natural consequence of personal choice. Expect to suffer for Christ's name. Some Christians purposely discrimination and to believe temporary comfort is better than Christ's promise of eternal rest and joy in His presence. They go for Christ to do what He did and what He told them to do, which is to proclaim the gospel and thereby lead sinners to salvation. Christ could lead unbelievers to the cross without the help of Christians, but his people want to serve him, and this is how they do it. They want to work for Christ, but the nature of this work is suffering, just as is demonstrated on the cross. There is the risk of rejecting Christ at the critical moment, or of becoming prideful about one's level of faith and commitment to Jesus. He promised this to his disciples, who were not superheroes, but ordinary individuals inspired by a unique promise from a living God who came down to show them the way, to speak words they could later quote before their tormentors, to endure what they would endure, and more so, they could follow his example. The apostle referred to the whole person. Ideally, the believer submits every aspect of life to God, to his good purposes and his glory. Every aspect includes the darkness of personal suffering. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit on the notification bell for the next video.